رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And jazakallah khairan for this loud intro. So, inshallah, today we will continue the 19th flash, which is on frugality, as a commentary on the verse, Kulu washrabu wa la tusrifu. Eat and drink, but do not waste. Last week, the topic consists of 7 points. Last week, we studied the first and the second points. If anybody wants to very quickly remind us what is left behind from the first and second points, or in general, last week's discussion, it doesn't necessarily need to be first point was this, second point was this. If you remember what is left behind for the past week, if you decided not to buy coffee from a certain coffee shop any further, or anything of that sort, okay.
I think last week's discussion was very, very great. There was a lot. So I'm just gonna say the one that I remember mostly after like reading a little bit. And it's to be mindful of the purpose of things. So for example, one of the parts of the text was when we eat food, we eat it for nourishment. We don't eat it to please our mouths. And just to be mindful of like trying to remind ourselves that we're not the purpose is not to eat the fanciest things or to please our mouths, because ultimately what we need is to nourish the body, and that's what we should be focusing on instead of wasting whatever it is wasting on flavors or extra flavors.
Jazakallah khairan. Yes.
One point that I got out of last week's discussion is we talked about what does it mean to waste, and like a definition that we came up with was that waste is that which goes without you offering thanks for it. So as opposed to thinking like from a material standpoint, each moment that you're given something, it's that are you giving thanks for it? Are you mindful of it? Kind of connecting with what Natalia was talking about, and then also looking to understand why we're given taste, for example, or even other senses where we do obviously have food, and like there's certain food that makes us like it's more delicious to us versus others. But to understand that these senses, for example, feeling taste, is a payment given and not the point itself. And more so understanding it from a perspective of it's being employed by the creator to do a particular to serve a particular purpose. So those were some of the points that I took out of last week's discussion.
Very beautiful. Brothers didn't receive anything from last week, I assume. Nothing from brother's side. And Arsalan makes comment after the discussion anyways. But
Oh, I wasn't gonna say anything valuable. I was gonna say maybe the brothers are a bit too frugal. So
yeah, it's all sisters, okay. But Arsalan has something, I guess, no?
No, not right now.
Okay. But I heard that you decided not to buy a cloth for the Eid or something.
Yeah, I'm being frugal right now.
Alhamdulillah, very nice. Yeah.
Getting money for
me to buy too.
So that wife buys too. Okay, Alhamdulillah. So yes, and I would just like to highlight one of the points that Sitor Zaha mentioned. Really, we should be asking the question of two things that we mentioned last week was, why do we wear clothes? Or more so, why don't we have a fur? Why we are not created with a fur, but we are given clothes? Because this is one of the things that we can be, for example, be wasteful. And we can be wasteful about anything, but this is one of them. But the question was, why did the creator didn't give us a fur? And that made us wear clothes. This can apply to anything and everything. So he made the creation so that there is taste in food, definitely. he could have made it that there's no taste. But living a life just for taste, does it justify? For such answers, we need to question that the type of facts that we are going through. Because if I put myself at the center of existence, what I mean by that is put my personal worldly benefit, by worldly meaning transitory benefit from things, such as the taste. If I make taste as the goal of my life, or momentary joys as the goal of my life, then everything becomes a waste. But if I say, what else is the purpose of my existence, then what is the point of this taste being there? What is the point of clothes being there? What is the point of having children, for example? Like everything then can be questioned in a different lens. If humans' egotistical benefits is at the center, everything becomes a waste. But if a human becomes a servant, meaning a person who realizes that he is being provided and offers thanks as a response, then the equation totally changes.
Yeah, I'm glad we started with the idea purpose. Because the purpose may have multiple layers, multiple, the meanings. So when you try to teach something to children, like that's what's happened in our daughters' classrooms, when they want to teach them something, let's say how many obligatory parts are there for wudu, right? They want to teach it. How they teach it? They teach it through a song, right? There is a wudu song, and they sing it, and they learn that there are 6 whatever obligatory parts of the wudu. For sure, I don't know. I don't even remember the 6. I was just made up. So, and then similarly, if you want to teach something else, you make another song and teach them. This is just one way. Of course, you don't have to do it through a song, but this is one method. So children they like songs. So if they get lost with the liking the song part, they just enjoy it for the sake of singing without taking any meaning out of it. And if you continue this way, what you will become? A good singer, right? You can become a good singer, you can sing as much as you want, maybe become famous, etc. At one level, you can think it as I fulfilled the purpose, right? There are such stories, success stories. Okay. Success stories, like a famous singer would tell you that, oh, since my childhood, I was so into songs, I would learn everything through songs, whatever. For this purpose, for this person, it fulfilled the purpose, because for that person, the purpose is this worldly wealth or worldly gathering, worldly success. And when it is worldly success, at least to me, there's no difference between becoming a professor or becoming the best soccer player or a singer. Both are same. Just because one of them has more books, at least to me, doesn't make any difference. So, but when we go back and we start questioning, what is the purpose of these songs, really? You say that, okay, it is there so that I will learn something. So we can take the life the same way as one. So we can say that I'm eating. Why? At one level, because it's enjoyable, right? We all enjoy eating. I mean, maybe you have sickness you don't enjoy. It is a possibility. But other than that, everybody enjoys. eating. It's one level. You can take the purpose as this. You can say that, oh, the food is for entertainment, recreation purposes, right? Recreational purposes. I enjoy eating. I keep eating because I enjoy. And you become unhealthy creature. Another layer, you can say that we eat because why? Keep our body sustained, alive. We need nutrition, right? That's true. You eat for that reason. Everybody, with no exception, eats to get nutrition. You can say that this is the purpose. And I will eat food that would nourish my body best. You will just eat healthy. You will eat little. Why? Because eating little is more healthy. That's one thing, I apologize for medical professions. That's maybe the only thing a medical doctor can tell you with no hesitation, with no, made up stories. If you eat less, you will become healthier, right? That's known fact. You do that, you become even what is called frugal now. You can say that, okay, this is the frugality for me. I eat only to nourish my body. Right? That's another level. But still, it's like, singing songs. Your body, yes, but you will die anyway. As long as you don't suffer from, eating a lot, who really cares whether you live at your highest, the health or not? Right? There's always a range. Why you are pushing that much? So what is further? And last week, as far as I remember, we discussed this as well. We said the purpose of eating, it's like the practice, right? To realize something that I'm needy, I need sustenance, I need food to be sustained. You practice it every time you eat. And then every time you eat, you realize all these beautiful bounties, because the food is really, it's such a beautiful artwork creation when you think about it. You are given these artful blessings. You practice this every time you eat. You practice how thankful you become when you eat. And you ask yourself, whom am I going to thank? Right? Now it becomes a means for learning something, learning about yourself and learning about the one, whatever or whoever it is, the one who sustains you with love, who sustains you with care. Doesn't give you, for instance, like if you take it from a nutrition perspective only, what is the difference between what you eat and what the astronaut eat in the space station? The pills. Same nutrition value. Why don't you just eat pills then? When you eat, again, it's with love, like what you eat. The smell, taste, right? Somebody is taking care of you with compassion. So to learn about all these, the food becomes just a means, just like singing a song, to learn how to take wudu. You enjoy singing, and also singing, let's assume, make you healthier because you use your muscles, whatever. Mental health, maybe, right? But the point is not that. The point is to learn how to take wudu. The same way, eating is tasteful, is joyful. At the same time, it's nutritious, right? It's a means for your health. But maybe most important, the actual purpose of eating, knowing yourself, knowing about the one who sustains you with love and compassion. So then the waste can happen at all these layers. You can waste the taste, you can waste the health or nutrition, but most important, you can waste this learning opportunity, the experience.
Jazakallah khairan. So let's get to third point then. And who is going to read third point for us? Sister Zareen would have been a great candidate, but she's not here. Sister Maria, would you like to read? Do we have the other microphone somewhere over there? Until the fourth point.
Okay.
Jazakallah khairan. Okay, any comments, any questions?
I guess just to start the conversation, it's explaining the role of taste here, in both telling the stomach, oh, this is sweet, this is salty, act accordingly. But I think that like what I take away from it, which may be wrong, is that like it also plays a role like in your mind so that like when you do eat these things with a decent amount, I don't know, seasoning, right? Like a good flavor, then these things also remind you or play the role to remind you to give thanks more than maybe something that doesn't have a lot of seasoning. I don't know, maybe wrong.
Okay. Yes.
Wait, what's the role of what the master is trying to show the woman? I'm lost there. Like, what is he trying to prove through that action?
Oh, so the example in there is Abdul Qadir Jailani is a famous sheikh, and he is known for showing kirama, like the Wonderbergs. What's happening is kirama. Have you heard the word? Like sort of miracle-like things. So this lady comes and his son is under his teachings, like he's teaching him. But like this is a Sufi order, so asceticism is how they get trained. Like the students do not eat other than dry bread for 40 days. Like this is the way of training. And then she comes there and visits his son's cell. It's called a cell. So and sees that he is weak, thin, and just eating dry bread. Then goes to Sheikh's part and sees that Sheikh is eating fried chicken. Then he says, wait a second. Sheikh, my son is just dying there out of hunger and you are enjoying chicken here. What's going on? And then he says, rise with the permission of God to the chicken. And then he says, people observe that this chicken, cooked chicken, bones get together and jump out of the plate as a live chicken. Right. And this is narrated by multiple resources. Says, then Sheikh told to the lady, saying that when your son reaches this level, then he too can eat chicken. Like whenever your son says to the chicken, rise up, and the chicken rises up, then your son can also eat a chicken. But then Nursi says what Sheikh means by this is whenever your son's spirit rules his body, his heart rules desires of his soul, his reason rules his stomach, and when he wants pleasures for the sake of offering thanks, then he may eat delicious things. Let's read it from reverse. As long as your son's body is ruling over his spirit. Like bodily pleasures are number one, not the spiritual pleasures. When his nafs, his soul, is ruling over his heart, or when his stomach is overcoming his reason, meaning if it is delicious, eat more. Normally, your intellect should say, do not put various types of food, just eat as much as you need and then stop, because digestion is what's needed. So, no, this is also delicious. Let me eat this, let me eat that. So, stomach is overcoming your intellect. So, if this is who you are, and you're eating not for offering thanks, but for just joy, then you shouldn't eat. Reading it from reverse is as such. Yeah, so this was the story in there. Make clear? Okay, go ahead.
I guess the point actually,
Okay.
okay. I was, I guess it builds off really well from last week's point, because it reminds me of frugality then, right? Like to the degree that this person wasn't able to control or have control over his desires yet, meaning like your desire is still ruling you. My desire to go shopping is still determining my desire to shop, even though I have like definitely enough clothes or etc. Then maybe I'm better off training myself to just not buy clothes till I learn to appreciate what's already in my closet. Like, so I actually like that because it's pretty much clearly building off of it. Yeah.
Right, okay. Yeah, that what you just said reminded me. I've been kind of like since last week thinking about some verses from the Quran that kind of reminded me of those themes, particularly in terms of like eating and gratitude. And I wanted to double check before I brought the verses up, but I found them, alhamdulillah, the concept of, gratitude for what we have. And subhanAllah, with Allah's mercy, is like gratitude in itself also brings Allah rewards also gratitude, because there's this verse that says, وَإِذْ تَأَذَّنَ رَبُّكُمْ لَإِنْ شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ وَلَإِنْ كَفَرْتُمْ إِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ. Basically what that means, and recall when your Lord solemnly proclaimed to you, if you give thanks for my blessings, I shall most assuredly increase them for you. But if you become ungrateful, indeed my torment is most surely severe. This is from Surah, I think An-Nahl or Ibrahim. But essentially connecting the idea that being grateful for what you have as a way of worshiping Allah, and as a recognition that He is the one that provides, and then out of His mercy, He's like, you're grateful for this, I'm going to give you even more things to be grateful for. So I just really remember that aspect of Allah in that sense of gratitude.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm a little conflicted about like what's frugal. Like, wouldn't the definition of frugality change depending on like who you are, like in your socioeconomic status? Like, and if I take Pakistan for example, let's say like a daily worker, he probably cannot buy lamb. Lamb is very expensive. They probably only eat that like during Eid al-Adha, right? Like, they can survive on lentils too. Would chicken not be considered frugal then? Like, you can get protein from lentils too, and lentils are much cheaper than chicken. So, and I feel like and if I'm eating chicken, let's say, like I can only afford chicken, and then like slowly I work my way up, I get a job, and now I can buy lamb. Is lamb not like, is eating lamb not frugal? Like, isn't it like an evolving definition?
People who were here last week, what do you think? There's an answer I see there.
Yeah, we had the very same question. And the answer is actually focusing on, are you giving thanks? So like if you're eating chicken and you're giving thanks, that's the most important thing, not so much focusing on like excess. Although we did mention that those who are frugal, like if you're hungry, you're just a little bit more thankful when you have food than if you had, if you can convince yourself that you can eat chicken and still be grateful, then I think like chicken wasn't necessarily the problem. It's that the thanks part, usually we said like the tendencies of a human is usually to not give thanks if there is a lot of excess, because you start associating with yourself like, I bought this house, I did this thing. So it's a little bit easier maybe to forget. But ultimately that really didn't matter. It was more focusing on, are you able to give thanks within whatever you're doing? So if you're eating chicken, are you able to give thanks?
And on top of last week's discussion, this week's discussion is, this is why the author starts by saying, in the second point, he was mentioning that tongue is a doorkeeper. This is how he described tongue, and said that since it's a doorkeeper, you should only pay it its due. Said, like, for example, there's a palace and there's a doorkeeper. If you just give $5 to the doorkeeper, and then leave $100 for the palace itself. But if you bribe the doorkeeper, he says, with taste, and then the doorkeeper will start letting in the the revolutionaries inside. Whomever bribes it more, baklava or whatever candies will give more taste. And then there's going to be a revolution in the body, meaning you become unhealthy. So he says, from the point of view of feeding the body, which is the main purpose of you are being obliged to do this act of eating, your creator is, because like he doesn't, for example, ask you to feed yourself with air. Like this is not part of your duty. It's automatically being taken care of. And it's a bigger part of your sustenance, right? More so than eating. But he gave you the task of eating. Why did he give it to you? You should ask that question, right? Why didn't he make you get fed, just like trees are being fed with the roots? They put zero effort, right? Trees put zero effort to be fed. But human, you're being employed in this task. So it looks like the main point is that, as Brother Birkan was saying, this is how you learn about sustainer. A part of your sustenance is only feeding, and the creator said, let me employ you in this task so that you get familiar with it. The example we gave last week was, I'm going to make donation to the mosque, but I give money to Ali and say to Ali, go and drop the money there, so that he learns donating. Otherwise, I could put the money there as well. So your creator employs you in this task of feeding the body so that you learn that you have a sustainer. But in this, there's this tongue and taste. You enjoy it as well. Then if you start thinking that the point of eating is just to get the taste, I don't care about the rest. This is the part that I am focusing on. In this task of feeding, the duty of tongue is just being a doorkeeper, to let things in, to chew. That's all it does. But if you bribe it with the taste, then things comes upside down. This was the topic of second point. So he says, when it comes to the feeding of the body, if you start bribing the tongue, the doorkeeper, it's a waste. And in terms of feeding your body, lentil is more than enough. Going to the lamb is a waste, period, because you're bribing it. But now we come to the third point. He says, let me read the first paragraph. We said in the second point that the sense of taste is a doorkeeper. And indeed, for the heedless and those who have not progressed spiritually or did not advance in the way of thanks, offering thanks, shukr, it is like a doorkeeper. So if you are such a person, it's a doorkeeper for you. Doesn't matter if you are filthy rich or whatever, anything above lentil is a waste, period. But then he says, being able to afford or not doesn't change anything in this regard. Wastefulness should not be indulged in, or the sense of taste's price be raised from 1 to 10 for the sake of giving it pleasure. So this is how the second point is sealed. But now we come to the third point. He says, However, the sense of taste of those truly on the way of things, like people of shukr, those seeking reality, meaning of things, the purpose of existence, and those who approach reality with their hearts is, now comes the description, sense of taste is like a supervisor and inspector in the kitchens of divine mercy. This is a description that author uses here. He explains this in detail in the 6th word. I'll quickly open up a parenthesis there. 6th word is a interpretation of the verse إن الله اشترى من المؤمنين أنفسهم وأموالهم بأن لهم الجنة. Indeed, Allah has purchased from believers their selves and their property in exchange or in reward of paradise. And then author says, what does it mean that God buys from believer, from me, myself, and my property? How do I sell my stuff to God? Pretty much. It says, God has given you these eyes, the tongue. What was the third? He uses 3 things. I forgot the third. Anyways, he gives 3 examples. He says, let's pick up the eye, for example. You can use this eye to look at temporary beauties out there. And he uses a weird word. He says, you can make your eyes, forgive me the language, but a pimp for you. That it just brings you unlawful pleasures, which are temporary. But then he says, if you use it, if you sell it to God, though, the eye becomes an inspector that observes the beauties of art, looking at the universe as an art gallery of the artist being the creator. It becomes an inspector, an observer. So he says, this is how you sell your eyes to creator. And the idea is similar here. Selling your sense of taste to God means it then becomes a supervisor and inspector in the kitchens of divine mercy. Then the universe becomes kitchen of divine mercy. Every type of food, taste becomes a gift of merciful creator. And you become this gourmet taster, tasting them and then saying, oh, mamma mia, God. That type of a thing. So its duty is to recognize and weigh up the varieties of divine bounties. These are the parts that needs to be underlined. Its duty, the duty of tongue, is to recognize and weigh up the varieties of divine bounties on the tiny scales present in it to the number of foods, and to send the body and stomach news of the food in the form of thanks. In this respect, the sense of taste does not only look to the physical stomach, since it looks also to the heart, spirit, and mind, it holds a position and importance superior to the stomach. Because in part 2, in 2nd point, he said that the tongue is a doorkeeper. Stomach is the king. Now he says, but from this lens, though, now tongue became the king. Like tongue became superior than the stomach once you look at it from this lens. But for whom does it apply? He gave it with the example. What was it again? If whenever your spirit rules your body, whenever your heart rules your nafs, and whenever your reason, your aql, rules your stomach, and you want pleasure for the sake of offering thanks, then your tongue is truly an inspector for the divine kitchens of divine mercy. No?
But now that I'm thinking about it, I think it's a very, like, isn't it a very hard state to reach? Because, like, I'm thinking of biryani and, like, I'm very conflicted now. Like, why can't I just boil the chicken? Like, because like, of course I like the biryani for the biryani too. But I feel like the thanks comes after the taste is so good. I say, Alhamdulillah, like, it is good. But I don't know, there have to be so many, like, personal checks where, like, I feel like first the taste comes, and then I'm like, oh, okay, Alhamdulillah too. Like that's a very hard reach. That's why, like, I feel like the example is not about like Ahmad Azhar, it's about like Ghaus al Azam. Like it took so much time and so much effort to get to that state. And like I see myself falling a lot in the middle one. But that still shouldn't mean eating biryani is wrong, right? Like,
So what does this question look like? Okay, so let's talk about your question first. Your question has the sense of, this seems impossibly hard to do, therefore it must be false. Isn't it?
like no, it looks hard for me to reach. Like
That's another thing. That's fine.
uh,
But let's say something is true. It's so damn true. But unfortunately, I'm not able to get there. This is a separate thing. And that means there's a long journey for me to take, or I am too weak to get to there. But still, yeah. But this doesn't justify me doing what I do is right or wrong, right? Because the way question comes generally, I mean, also probably in this case as well, what I'm doing is not that wrong, is it? Right?
yeah.
So, because since it seems to be so hard to achieve, at least I hope it's wrong, or it's not as true. So I think it might be a more healthier stand to say that just let's judge whether this is right or wrong. If what seems to be said is right, then I should say, okay, what is the fact? I am far, far, far away from that. And I don't see me switching tomorrow either, switching to the mode of lentil only, right? But I can ask the question, is this achievable humanly? And how much is it achievable? Or you can even ask the question, how did prophets, or more practically speaking, how did Sahaba of Prophet lived? You can also ask that. I mean, did they not ever eat biryani, for example? Definitely, there's going to be a spectrum of where I am. But more so, what we should be looking at is to say that, yes, I am not there. And what is being said is black and white, yes, makes sense, but life is gray, and I am somewhere in the spectrum. So shall I try to start fixing myself as much as it is feasible? I mean, maybe you're not going to stop eating biryani or ever, and nobody's saying that do not ever eat biryani anyways. But there might be things in my life which I will start catching myself saying that these are the things that I have been doing mindlessly. No thanks was offered in them at all. And I have never questioned them anyways. Starting from them is going to start making me more conscious about my choices. I think this is a good start. Like today, normally I do drink coffee when I go to work. Today I couldn't because I started a meeting and there was another meeting and whatnot. Then it became the time for the Juma. Then after Juma, sometimes I go with someone to the coffee shop, and that someone becomes my excuse that we are having a conversation. But today I couldn't find this someone either. I was talking to my sister over the phone, and still I walked to the coffee shop. And as I ordered a coffee, and as I am ordering the coffee, I said to my sister, I don't know why I'm ordering this coffee anyways. And then I ordered the coffee, and the price was 4.98. I said, I can buy half a bag of coffee beans for that price. Why am I doing that? So at least I should be able to catch myself as I am doing that. Still, I drank that coffee. So, I mean, the point me saying this is, you won't change over the night, but at least catching myself that I do many things mindlessly. I don't offer thanks for them. At least catching myself either to offer my thanks or to, if I can, stop doing things for which I generally do not offer thanks. I think this is step by step where we can start from, kind of. Otherwise, when it becomes, I visited a place like this. It's not Sheikh Jilani's, but like a Sufi tariqat place. what they mean as a cell is literally something like a grave, like it's very narrow like this. And they said people didn't sleep there by laying down. They had a like an iron rod, which has another Y-shaped thing put on there. So they used to sleep like this. Like they put the rod there, and they only eat bread for 40 days. This was their style of education. This is not in the Sunnah, but this is how tariqat used to train them. And of course, this is far, far away from any one of us. You wouldn't like to go into that anyways. But this is what the example he gave, because it's a black and white contrasting example. But in my life, where can I stand is a practical question that I should ask. Brother Birkan was going to make a comment, but he disappeared, I guess. Okay. Any other comment or questions?
Can we like make a clear distinction between I guess I got a little lost and I would like it to be more clear for me, but the distinction between wasting the opportunity to give thanks and being mindless and extravagant food. If that's clear, like I guess it is the example between the very simple bread and like a very well cooked rotisserie chicken or something. Like what's the difference? Like they must be different. Like they must not be the same things in terms of waste. Like how can I apply that in my life? Or like again, what's there to learn from a more simple, frugal lifestyle, if that's better than like, you know, making a really crazy recipe with a lot of flavors. I do get the difference, like I do get the thanks thingy, but not like this difference.
So like think about a spoiled child. Child has everything. And then child wants another toy. You walk into a market and the child starts jumping up and down and saying that I want this toy. And since it's a spoiled child means what? Doesn't appreciate what he already has, wants always more. And you know for a fact that this toy is just going to become a 5 minutes joy for the child. After, one day, the child is going to throw it somewhere and will never look at this toy anyways, right? What do we do? As parents, generally, what do? We don't buy this toy. Why? Because child thinks that if you buy this PlayStation 5, I'm going to enjoy, right? But in fact, the simple ball at the home is something to be appreciated. And for a child, it's taken for granted, though. Like, ball, of course, ball has to be there. What do you mean being thankful for ball, right? But to be able to appreciate what's a PlayStation 5, really the child needs to start first appreciating the ball, then whatever, then they can truly start appreciating PlayStation 5. But the child says what? If you explain it as such, child says, oh, I understand. Okay, you buy me PlayStation 5 and I will thank you. Would the child be truly thankful for PlayStation 5, really? For them to be truly thankful of PlayStation 5, they first really need to start from the ball. Like anything you have really was a blessing. But now, to trick the system in a way, because child is smart, says, oh, I got you, Dad. Yes, actually, you're true. PlayStation 5 is something that requires thanks. Then I'll thank you. And if you don't buy it to me, I'll hate you forever. Like this is how it becomes, because still I feel like I am entitled to receive a PlayStation 5. But yes, you don't have to, but you better buy it so that I'll say you a thank you for that. This is where we are. And this is why I think the attitude of what Sheikh suggests in here is practically what we do in life as well. we say to the child, then I am cutting your weekly payments, like what do they say it in English? Weekly allowances, no more. So that you start really learning how to manage and then become thankful and whatnot. Practically speaking, when it comes to food, let's say I am very much fond of trying different tastes. And then in this case, really, I mean, practically nobody will do this, but saying that, okay, I'm not going to eat anything but bread. Actually, in Ramadan, we do this because the Creator very sharply says, no food at all. No food at all. He doesn't even say, you're not having breakfast today. You're not having biryani during Ramadan. He says, you're not eating anything. It's a very sharp cut to make you realize that, and you testify to this yourself during iftar time. Let's say you went to some, you come to our house thinking that we have a banquet here, but it was just a mishap and we didn't really text or anything. Somehow you thought there would be food. You came here, everybody came here, and we only have food for 5 people, and 30 people showed up. As a result, what do? We just serve you bread, okay, for the sake of argument. You will not truly enjoy this bread because after 15 hours of hunger, that bread truly becomes appreciable. You really appreciate that, oh, such a sustenance. If not bread, definitely for water, right? How many times a year are you thankful for water, drinking water? In Ramadan, you definitely are thankful for water. So in this regard, yes, biryani is extravagant if I don't offer thanks for it. The Creator, knowing me, says that, okay, 1 month every year, nothing. So that you start even appreciating the dry bread. You start appreciating the water. So we are being a little too merciful towards ourselves, I guess. But the Creator is in this regard quite sharp.
But if you offer thanks, it still remains extravagant, right? Like if I offer thanks for eating biryani, since the initial intention was not for the sake of offering thanks and for making your tongue that like keeper of divine mercy of like flavors, like the act, it's like you're saving it at the end, like, right, oh, let me just offer thanks, like, right, like the correct method would still be like to
It's our reality. Practically, yes, we are still eating biryani as we would eat. We will drink this coffee just because Atik served us. We are not really thinking. I'm just talking. I'm not even aware of what I'm doing. And then maybe I catch myself and I say, oh, thank you, God. Like, this is not the ideal case. In here, author, in general, actually, Nursi, whenever he talks, he always talks black and white because this is easy to explain things when it is black and white. When it comes to our practical reality, we are somewhere in the spectrum. Always we need to keep that in mind. And if I cannot do anything perfect, I shouldn't totally abandon it. Like, oh, I'm not able to say rise.
Not, you said, right?
I forgot. Say it again. What did I say?
You said I should not abandon it.
Yeah, I should not abandon it. Like, it should not be that after eating chicken biryani, I said rise to the chicken didn't rise. And then I'm not going to eat biryani. Like, this is not the point. Like, this is just a black and white example.
So which I missed. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you make, and then brother got here.
Also, another point, I mean, we did touch on this throughout the conversation, but throughout the discussion, even we're talking specifically in the context of food here because the ayat like apparently talks about food, right? But I don't think it's just like it talks to essentially any sense, right? Eyes or even speech. And so even I think one thing to think about is like yeah, we have these practical examples where we can compare and think like, oh, should I not be doing this? Should I, like, where do we draw the line? But then ultimately, if we miss the intention behind it, like essentially, as we're talking about this, I'm thinking okay, how can we apply this to other senses, not just food, right? And I want to make a point about how someone could be frugal in a sense, even with a practical example like food, but not give thanks, right? They could be, it could be out of fear. So you could have lentil, but then there's no thanks offered. So, or you could, like utilize, I guess be frugal in terms of what you're watching or what you're listening to, but then do it out of fear of like losing something, as opposed to making that an opportunity to recognize that you are provided this with the purpose, and it's an opportunity to give thanks. So you could be in both extremes, and you could apply this not just to food but to all sorts of senses.
There's something else on that side.
Natalia. I was quickly gonna say again to support my husband that it is really hard. It seems very, very hard, to the point where I think that, like, being honest with myself, Ramadan oftentimes is like the opposite. Like, we're waiting, like people cook better meals in Ramadan for iftar. So like it stops being about frugality, I think. Even like for some people, Ramadan is so fun that they forget what it's for. So I feel like the what I would need to do to myself to actually be grateful about things is to actually have nothing. Like, actually, not only fasting in Ramadan, because I know that, like, my dad always used to say, hunger that awaits food is not hunger. Like, if you know you're gonna have food at sunset, then again, sometimes it's easy for me to forget the point. So I think that, like, it would really need to be like you have nothing, and then you can be grateful for like the basic things that come very easy, that are very frequent, like water or bread or rice. We need, like, I don't know, I need to find something that could be like literally having nothing, just because I think that, again, it's hard. It's hard to do it by your mind only. Like, I think that sometimes you do need some sort of like a big push to be grateful more often and more intentionally.
And I mean, one of the reasons we are having this discussion as we are getting closer to Ramadan is that actually you're right. We should be conscious when we are fasting. And in Ramadan, really, we should pause, especially before iftar, for example. Do not immediately jump on the food, but pause for 5 minutes, 3 minutes, and say, what am I doing right now? Being conscious when breaking the fast. These are very important things. Inshallah, eventually, after this part finishes, we will talk about another text with Shukur, and then we will talk about Ramadan, so that we do not waste Ramadan. You're very true. We are wasting Ramadan. All those iftars are simply becoming banquets. That doesn't increase our thanks, but maybe increasing our waste. Very true. Very, like, this is our practical reality, unfortunately. But the purpose of this discussion, this reminder, is so that it doesn't become like that. Okay, there's one more.
I guess I had a thought, because I think like a lot of give us opportunity to also recognize when we're transgressing transgressing against ourselves too. Because if we give the example of food, after even if we take like the Ramadan example, right? I'm like, oh, I'm so hungry. Then I'm like, I'm not watching. I'm just like eating. And then I actually like don't feel good for a second. I'm just like, oh, that doesn't feel great. Or it's really hard to pray Tarawih if you've eaten a lot, actually, because all you want to do is go back to sleep. So there's actual like physical recognition of like something is in error. So maybe there is an opportunity to pay attention to the physical manifestation of our own action too, because I do agree that it's quite easy to actually just keep going, and it's much easier to keep going but there is signs even within our physical sense.
Jazakallah. So I hope I will not repeat something already been said while I was not here. But I think if something that we study sounds too hard, maybe we are misunderstanding something, because the reality or what is expected from us couldn't be hard. If it sounds too hard, probably, maybe I'm just again just thinking, maybe we are conflating what is being narrated here with some other ideologies or other the type of expectations. So the example about the Sufi tradition here is given not to tell us that you should first master eating dry bread, and then when you are thankful to the dry bread, then you can switch to other food. If you are not thankful, then just abandon or cut your ties for a while, train yourself, etc. To my understanding, at least, this is not the author's approach. Nowhere he says you should, close your eyes to this or close your mouth to that. But he's teaching us the reality behind. Okay? Like Quran, the examples could be binary. You either go to hell or heaven, right? There's no in between. There is something is either black or white. There's no in between. Because at the level of the creation, everything is so binary. Whether it is there or not. Whether what you say is true or wrong. At the level of creation, like how things are being created. Yes, this is true. But my understanding from this text is saying, like going with your example, I can afford lamb. Should I still just stick to the lentil? So my understanding, the text is not about whether you eat lentil or lamb. The text is why you are eating lentil, why you are eating lamb. You collecting artworks, let's assume. You have a taste in art, a tiny bit, as much as, let's say, Yusuf has, right? Only that much. You can collect some simple art pieces and say that I like their colors, man. I don't even know, about their painter or their artist. I just like, how they look on my wall. That much you appreciate the art. And then you have money. You have a lot of money. You can buy any art piece you want, right? With this money. But when you do that, the reason you are buying these art pieces is not to appreciate the art. You know that. Why? You don't have this taste in, like, other than just the colors are good. If I ask you, who's the artist? I mean, you paid, I don't know, $2 million just because, you have $5 million extra. You paid that much money, but at least tell me who's the artist. And you say, I don't know, who cares, right? Why you buy it? Because you have the money. Why not? Right? This is how things work with billionaires. They do things just because they can do. So if you do that, I can easily tell you, you are wasting your money. You are wasting this art piece itself. It could be somewhere, at somebody's house where it will be really appreciated. You just wasted it. You even wasted your money, your time, right? So to understand this, I believe it's easy. Not to do it it's also easy. Just don't spend your money to something that you don't appreciate. Don't spend your money as a means of status. Right? In this example, you spend all this money because you want people come and see that you own this and that art pieces. So you can apply the same thing to food as well, or anything. The house. Other day I was thinking, we have this house, alhamdulillah. I was making calculations, right? Let's assume in X years, I can, save that much money. And then after these X years, I can buy a bigger house, right? I can, let's say a better neighborhood, etc. I'm making all these calculations. And then I ask myself, why? Like, isn't this house enough for you? You have 2 kids. I mean, if you have 7 more, maybe in these X years, if you need more space, do that. But otherwise, why? I mean, if you have some reasons, because it's, the neighborhood maybe not that, I don't know, they safe, whatever. If you have some reasons. But at that time, when I was making the calculations, I didn't have any reasons. I made these calculations. Why? Because this is the norm. People buy a house, then save more money, sell the old house, buy a bigger and more expensive house. This is the norm, right? Everybody knows. And I was making these calculations only for that reason. So if I do that, it is obvious that I'm wasting the house, wasting the money, wasting my time, everything. So it's not about, whether I buy a more expensive, like how much money I pay. It's about why. Why you are doing this? What is the point? That's the question you ask. And if the answer is something about your status, because your husband or wife say so, just because, my stomach enjoys, what is the answer? Right? That's the point. In Turkish culture, I'm sure it is same with many of you as well. Parents, usually moms or grandmoms, they want babies to be chubby, like a lot of meat, right? Because why? It's considered to be, I don't know, healthier maybe, right? The child is getting bigger. I want the child bigger, like heavier, right? That's what is expected. Why? If it is really about the health, it's not healthy. Having a chubby, the heavy kid, it's not healthy. Why? Because there's this understanding. I'm not, criticizing anyone. This is the culture, right? It's not about the people. The understanding is that it is food and it is your fat that keeps you healthy, that keeps you alive. If you don't eat enough, if you don't get heavy enough to save some, the food for future moments, right? You can, lose. You can die. That's the idea. So there's this causal relationship between food and life. So when this is the case, it becomes easy to say that, okay, I shouldn't do that. It's not about a Sufi tradition. It's not about, trying to eat feed your child with dry. Okay, I should stop here.
Okay. And that was some milk wasted. This was a waste. Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Thanks for the spilling.
You thanks for it.
We weren't grateful enough for the milk, that's why Allah spilled it.
Who did it? Yes, Alhamdulillah. That's over the thanks that we missed. So, any other comments, questions? If not, we can go to fourth point.
So is it I feel like it's like what is the purpose of Ramadan being or the fasting being made easier in some years compared to others? Like we have a very short, daylight this time of year. And will I be able to I don't know, get the full benefit out of it if it's too short?
In Turkey, every Ramadan, like some you go to TV and people call and ask questions. Like if I take wudu, just one drop of water goes in, does it violate or no? And in Eid time, they say like Eid al-Adha, they say, would chicken be accepted as udhiyah? Inshallah, when the time comes, we will discuss that question as well. I don't have an answer. This is how I escape. So, okay, yes.
I feel like in the past sessions, we always discussed or learned that, we can only know like the names of the creator, like they can only manifest to us through like, like if we experience them. So if I don't know mercy, I will not know my merciful creator. Like if I don't have a merciful mother, maybe I will never know my merciful creator. If I don't have like the nama of sight and I cannot see beauty in front of me, I will never see the beautiful creator, let's say. Or if I've lived in injustice my whole life, maybe I will never encounter or know what it means to have a just creator. But then when it comes to thanks and food and knowing our giver, somehow it's the opposite. Like only when I'm depriving myself of these things, only then I can offer thanks. But how can I offer thanks to something I actually don't even have? Like, why if I'm like poor and I cannot afford things, how am I supposed to learn that I should be thankful for things? Unless I will receive these things, but in like maybe moderate quantities or in quantities that maybe not as much as I want, but it should be there for me to experience and to be able to give thanks to it. I feel like, and maybe that's why with Ramadan, like you don't have something for a certain period and then you have it. And only then you can experience what it means, only then you can give thanks, because only then you can experience what it means to have something and what it means, how it feels like not to have something. So that's why also like when it comes to moderation, like I feel like depriving yourself from like something completely, I don't know if it's a way to know your creator and how you will give thanks. Like how will you give thanks to something you don't even have?
That comment has 2 points. Two separate things. The first one is when you deprive, like the point in here is not to become appreciative of it by totally depriving yourself. Because again, I'm going to remind you of the previous example with this spoiled child. The child has lived a life with receiving so many things and taking for granted and never noticing that they were there in the first place. This is why once you say that from now on, no more daily allowance, or I'm taking away all your toys, then the child starts recognizing, oh, that toy was not supposed to be there in the first place. So this is how, by being deprived of it, actually, the child realizes that it was a gift in the first place. So this, because we are not now talking about a child which has never seen a toy. Because if it was a child which has not seen anything at all, and then sees a ball, then the possibility of being thankful was open for that child. Yes, child would never know what it means to be given a ball if no ball is given to them, for sure. But this is not where we are. We are at a position where we are the spoiled child. We have eaten so many things, experienced so many things in life, and we never offered our thanks for that. So this is that part of it. What was the second part? Too long to come to here. So anyways, I forgot the second part. Yeah. I forgot the second part. Anyways, maybe it was not necessary.
Well, yeah, for that reason, I want to emphasize that the example is not given to tell us you should deprive yourself. In other places, author explicitly study, his own way versus the people who deprives themselves to learn about the Creator.
Can I make it?
Yeah, please.
So, not exactly, to be honest, because in his own life, author lived a life in which he was literally staying away from any sort of extravagance as well. Like in his life, he didn't live any luxury food or anything of that sort, as he will exemplify. Because, like, the reason I would like to be cautious when it comes to this topic is I don't want this text to be just a philosophical way of framing, oh, it's all about perspective. Yes, it's all about perspective, but you live this in your life. And when it comes to, I don't know, getting on a certain way of driving a car in this society, I automatically get into a certain psychology anyways. Like I'm not this super flying type of a pious person. As I am driving by and a few head turns as my car is passing by, I start feeling like this is why I shouldn't be driving this guy practical, I say to myself. If you guys are from a different planet which doesn't feel this, go ahead and buy the most expensive car. Or if you, this is what the example was saying on a very black and white way. Because practically we are human beings, and based on how people look at me, or just based on the mode, I get into some mode. Like as the person who is now talking, if you bring in a very famous brand cloth, gift it to me, and I wear it and come to the next discussion, and then a few of the brothers says, oh, you look good, I will feel different. Like this is my reality. And as a person who tells you that it's all about perspective, I will feel different. Like this is my reality. This is why I think I should not wear this cloth unless really something changes in me, and this never happened to me yet. So also let's keep that practical aspect of the matter at sight. Yes, ultimately we are talking about changing the definitions, but let's not forget that changing the definitions in mind doesn't change me automatically. I behave in a certain way, I live in a certain way. This is my reality. This is why if the social norms, especially, I'm not going to go into Pakistan versus here, but let's talk about what we are here. Going above certain things in this society is explicitly wasteful. And me not going into that territory is a way to save myself, practically speaking. And I think it matters. So I would like to make this distinction at least so that the conversation is not simply being hypothetically building up a very clear, crystal clear worldview. And after the discussion, because I had this the reason that I was posing Brother Birkani in there was, in the past, I had friends. After this discussion, the friend said, we were taking wudu then. He opened the faucet to the end, said, I look at this and I thank my creator. So now it's not being wasted. No, like this is waste. I mean, you cannot just by the flow of the water, yeah, oh, how great of a creator. So this is why, as much as I am, and this is why I think in Ramadan, still my creator, by asking me not to eat anything for 15 hours, is inviting me not to only train my intellect, but also my stomach, my nafs, my spirit as well, by clearly saying that I'm going to teach you what it means, not only intellectually, but also through all your senses. So, and he himself in his life, he was being careful about this, but he was not forcing people when it comes to, because he had students who lived with him, he was not forcing them, as will come in, I believe, in the 5th point. He's going to give an example from his students, how he practiced, how he suggested them to practice, how they did not. And then like practical examples he will give them. And we are not going to be in one end of the spectrum. There's going to be a spectrum. But at least to say that certain things are waste. I think, to me at least, I feel like it should be at least a little step forward.
So one example came to my mind is hadith. Somebody please help me with the exact wording, but the rough translation is the cleaning is part of belief, or it's like a being clean is a sign of belief, something like that. Okay, yeah. In English?
Cleanliness is from.
Yes, from the faith. Yes, from Iman. So we can take this, the hadith as, oh, the cleaning is part of the Iman. It's from, like you take the from as being part of the Iman. And when you study it, you tell people that they should clean themselves. They should be clean. Wear clean clothes, and they clean themselves, the face, hands, everything. Like take shower every day. As much as they get clean, it is good, because a Muslim should be clean. Or you can take the hadith saying that it's from Prophet. Right? Yes, he also says, that tells practical things. Whatever he says, there's a practical aspect of it. But it's teaching something about, the faith itself. And you take the hadith as, if you build your faith, the cleaning will emerge. As a necessity, you will find yourself in a state that you want to be clean, that you need to be clean, because you will look at the creation, you will see how everything being clean. When we studied with the people who were in the state park about Al-Quddus, right? How everything in the creation is being cleaned. So the faith gives cleanness, right? You can take it that way as well. And when you study this hadith, you try to study the faith and then how it relates to cleaning. Yet both of them are important. Yes, in practice, you will become clean. In practice, you will clean yourself, you will take shower. But to me, the importance is where you put the emphasis. If you put the emphasis on the cleanness, I don't know, I will just make up a name. Elon Musk is the cleanest person, let's assume. So we should all will try to become like him. If you put the emphasis on the other part, though, right, then you will say, okay, yes, as a practical aspect of it, cleanness will show itself, but not the way that this guy cleaned himself. If you put, at least to me, when we study such a text, if you put the emphasis on practically we shouldn't eat this or that, we should deprive ourselves from these and that, we will become greedy, try to save our money in the name of faith, right? And then the more we save our money, the more we spend less, we will feel good without changing anything about our lives other than how we spend our money, right? Most of the billionaires, they spent their money better than us. They spent less than us for many of things. I don't see any of these famous billionaires who are chubby. I never seen, right? They eat little less. Maybe clothing, they care a lot. Steve Jobs was not that, into the clothing either. He was living very moderate life, even barefoot. So what is the point? What is the direction we are going though? Hence, my understanding here, the point is not depriving yourself, but the point is trying to see the value, see the appreciation, and then this will practically, I agree totally on the practical side, will and should practically show itself as being so afraid of wasting it because it's so valuable. Taqwa, being so afraid of doing something wrong. Why you do so? Because you are aware of it. You don't live an extravagant life. You shouldn't, yes. But the point here, you don't live an extravagant life to save money or to deprive yourself from something. No, the other way around actually. Whatever you look, even at dry bread, you appreciate its value that much. Or the water from the faucet. So much value you see, you are so afraid that I will waste even a drop of it. If I bring you a masterpiece from a biggest painter, put it on your wall, if you are aware of this painter, if you are aware of the quality of this painting, you're so afraid that your child will even approach it. You will put it on the highest part of your wall, right? To me, that's the frugality. Trying to save it because you see the value. You respect it. You don't buy a new clothes when you have already clothes, not to live a moderate life or not to waste your money because you respect what you have so much. You say, oh, look at this, what is given to me. It's even soft. It's not just protecting me. It's protecting me, but at the same time soft. How can I take this off, throw it away, and buy a new one? To me, that's the base we should try to establish. Yes, in practice, I will not buy a new clothes. But to me, this is not the place to discuss how many clothes I will buy or how much money I should spend based on my income. If I'm, earning only $100 per day or per hour, per whatever, versus I'm earning $300, which one, Birkan, do you think is a frugal choice? That's not the point. The point is, whatever you are buying, what is the reason you're buying it? And do you respect it as it's something given to you? As something artfully created for you? Do you see these aspects?
Jazakallah khairan. Any other comments, questions? We are time. I think starting a new topic is possible. Inshallah, we will continue from the fourth point next week. An author will keep giving examples throughout the text. Yes, and I agree with Brother Birkan about the emphasis part. And I guess the reason I am putting the emphasis on the other side is because I have been putting the emphasis on the other side for so long, and I realized that it's not helping. And people are spending $50,000 on a brand new car after attending discussions for 5 years. So I decided that practical examples are also needed. Okay. So inshallah, let's conclude here. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين الفاتحة